A man is behind bars after police say he rammed not one but two APD units. This latest incident makes it the fourth time this week a suspect has gone after officers. It happened Friday night near San Mateo in Indian School Northeast. Police say 23-year-old Stephen Gurule was hitting another man with a crowbar. They say when they got there, Gurule jumped into a car in an attempt to flee the scene. Officers say he hit one parked car while trying to get away and then spun out of control and hit a police unit head on. Officers managed to catch him.
It appeared, per our investigation, that he was attempting to intentionally hit our police vehicles to either disable them so we couldn't go after him or just to flee out of the area.
No one was hurt in Friday's incident. Gurule is facing multiple charges, including aggravated battery on a police officer. At least 3 of the 4 incidents where suspects attacked officers involved a suspect with a long rap sheet. Why law enforcement is concerned these types of criminals don't stay locked up, coming up in the next half hour. Well, people are continuing to honor fallen Rio Rancho officer Gregg Benner. One of our viewers sent in this picture showing the memorial set up where Officer Benner was gunned down earlier this week. You can see 2 of his fellow brothers in blue stop by to pay their respects. And a car show to benefit Officer Benner's family drew a lot of attention this weekend. It happened yesterday in southeast Rio Rancho. The car show is in honor of Gregg Nigel Benner, the Rio Rancho officer gunned down by wanted suspect Andrew Romero on Memorial Day. The event was put on by a former cop who now works to restore classic cars.
But let's use this to our benefit to try to help the family a little bit and raise some money.
No word on how much money was raised at the event. If you want to help Officer Benner's family, there's a fund set up at Wells Fargo Bank where anyone can donate. For more information, download our KRQE app. The chairman of a city-county commission in Roswell has been dropped because of his support for a controversial pot farm. According to the Roswell Daily Record, Chavez County commissioners did not reappoint Royce Maples. Maples voted earlier this month in favor of converting an old dairy plant near Roswell into a medical marijuana farm. The vote passed 4-2, sending shockwaves through the conservative town. The 2 Chavez County representatives who voted against the pot proposal were both reappointed this week. It's unclear if the dairy site will indeed become a marijuana farm. The Pentagon says the Army's mistaken shipments of live anthrax were more widespread than it initially thought. In a statement, the department says 24 labs in 11 states and 2 foreign countries, South Korea and Australia, are believed to have received potentially live anthrax samples. The new findings suggest more extensive flaws in the Army's procedures. The live anthrax spores were supposed to be killed before any samples were shipped. Vice President Joe Biden's son has passed away. Beau Biden died yesterday after battling brain cancer for several years. The 46-year-old was the oldest son of the VP. He had been admitted recently to Walter Reed National Military Medical Center in Washington. Beau Biden is survived by his wife, Natalie, and their 2 kids. Police in California are under fire for the arrest of a pregnant woman. As Fox's Gina Silva reports, there are lots of questions about why she was even taken into custody.
I told you I was pregnant, you know, you could, what if something's wrong with my baby?
Charlena Michelle Cooks is angry, hurt, and humiliated by what she says a Barstow police officer did to her.
Okay, they about to touch me. Please. Don't touch me.
A police body camera captured the entire incident. Cooks, 8 months pregnant, being wrestled to the ground by an officer.
So why are you resisting, then?
It all started with a phone call from this woman claiming Cooks had road rage at the elementary school parking lot. When the officer spoke to the person making the call, he tells her there is no crime.
I don't see a crime that has been committed.
The officer then walks over to Cooks and asks for her identification.
What is your name, ma'am? I'm not giving you my name. Yeah, I actually do have the right to ask you for your name in this case, okay? Sure.
What's the reason? Give me a reason. Nobody was giving me a reason. Like, what for? If it's justified, then tell me what is it for?
Cooks tells the officer she's calling her boyfriend to make sure it's okay.
Ma'am, I'm going to give you 2 minutes.
Within 30 seconds, the officer arrested Cooks. She was charged with resisting arrest, but a judge later dismissed those charges.
The officer was wrong.
Civil rights attorney Leo Terrell.
He told the victim, I don't see a crime. If he did not see a crime, what's the justification for stopping the suspect for asking for information? You don't have to give information to a police officer if you're not being detained. And in this particular case, he had no reasons to detain the suspect.
The Barstow Police Department says the officer acted properly and the incident was not racially motivated.
That was Fox's Gina Silva reporting Cook is planning on suing the police department. The parents of the famous Duggar family say they will answer questions about one of their children's molestation scandal in an interview on Fox News this week. When Josh Duggar was a teenager, he allegedly molested several girls, including family members. His parents, Jim, Bob, and Michelle, say they hope the interview will shed light on the pain they went through as a family 12 years ago. Now, it will take place at the family's house in Arkansas. The Duggar children will not be part of the interview. The family's show, 19 Kids and Counting, has been taken off TLC's schedule and even dropped by the streaming site Hulu. Los Alamos National Labs is under federal investigation. The U.S. Department of Energy has ordered 2 separate investigations of the contractor that manages the lab after a series of electrical accidents. According to the Santa Fe New Mexican, the Energy Department will be taking a look at potential violations by the Los Alamos National Security. Since 2003, the lab has had at least 11 electrical incidents, some with injuries. The New Mexico Supreme Court says the state's protections against search and seizure don't apply at border checkpoints. The court made the distinction this week in overturning a previous ruling made by an appeals court in a 2012 drug smuggling case. According to court documents, Aide Sanchez was entering the Santa Teresa port of entry from Mexico. A Border Patrol agent searched her vehicle even though she was a permanent resident. The search turned up marijuana and Sanchez was indicted. Sanchez argued the search was unconstitutional. You may want to give yourself some extra time to get to work this week. Roadwork starts on Coors and I-40 tomorrow. Crews will be out there laying new asphalt and concrete. They're repairing cracks and potholes from the Rio Grande Bridge to the Coors interchange. Traffic will be down to 2 lanes in each direction. The project is expected to last through the end of October. Also starting tomorrow, a summer lunch program will begin in the South Valley. It's run by First Choice Community Health Care. The organization says they'll be providing meals for any child under 18 at their facility located on Central Familiar Southwest. There is no registration necessary for your child to get fed. Lunch begins at 10:30 and runs until 2:30. New Mexico got an early visit from a presidential hopeful. Yesterday, former Hewlett-Packard CEO and Republican Carly Fiorina headlined a state GOP fundraising dinner at the Hyatt Resort. She was joined by Governor Martinez at last night's event. Now, Fiorina is part of a crowded field of Republicans looking to win the nomination in 2016. During her speech, she made the case for why she should be the party's pick.
We need a nominee who can beat Hillary Clinton, who will ask the tough questions all day long, and who will not shrink from the fight we must have.
Speaking of Clinton, the former Secretary of State and Democratic contender is set to come to Albuquerque for a fundraiser of her own on Wednesday. And former Maryland Governor Martin OMalley announced in Baltimore that he will run for president. OMalley was an early supporter of Hillary Clinton's 2008 presidential race. Now the two are competing for the same job. The 52-year-old Democrat is casting himself as a new generation leader who would rebuild the economy and reform Wall Street. OMalley says he's concerned about the growing gap between the wealthy and the poor.
For today, in America, 70% of us are earning the same or less than we were 12 years ago.
OMalley is battling against Clinton and Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders for the Democratic nomination in 2016. Now, new this morning, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry is recovering at the hospital following a bike crash. Kerry was flown via helicopter to the Swiss hospital after suffering a leg injury. Now, the secretary's spokesman says paramedics and a doctor were with Kerry's motorcade when the crash happened this morning outside of Geneva. Kerry is listed as stable and is expected to be okay. A Wisconsin deputy is being hailed a hero this morning. The deputy responded to a call about a car that crashed into a ditch. The Brown County Sheriff's Office says when the deputy got there, he found the driver in the car motionless. The deputy was able to pull him out by the belt. Authorities say the driver would have died if he remained in the car. Now, that driver was okay and was taken into custody on drunk driving charges. Well, video shows what appears to be, get this, an 82-year-old man slashing the tires of a car belonging to an 88-year-old woman. Police say it was all because the woman took the man's favorite seat at bingo. How dare him? The woman who owns the car, Ethel Britt, says she's never had a flat tire on her minivan and couldn't believe what she saw on the surveillance video.
I was shocked. I couldn't hardly believe it until I see it on that video.
Now, Fred Smith is facing possible charges of criminal mischief. Britt says she would drop the charges against Smith if he would just apologize and pay for the tires. Smith's daughter says the dispute over the seat has been ongoing for quite some time and that her father is no longer allowed at the bingo hall.